they're like everyone else, and Apple users lost their minds on me.
Delivering fascinating subjects, interesting talk, and boobs and fart jokes. AD on iHeartRadio.
Yeah, oh, let's go. Talking that mess, better act like you know. Oh, let's go tonight. Walk away, punk, yeah, bitch. That's right, I know this. You're nothing but a punk, bitch. You're nothing but a punk, bitch. So walk away, yeah, yeah. You've been talking about me for a long time.
So like I said when we started the show, before we descended into whatever it's become, there's a famous Edgar Allan Poe story called The Telltale Heart, where a murderer is driven to confess. I came across a story that is that's sort of the digital age equivalent of that. And we'll get into it, but I've got a burning desire to finish up the news and just shoot the S with Funkhouser. You know how, well, maybe you don't know, because
a burning
there's lots
sensation, maybe that's what Malox is for.
Burning, I don't know. But there's, you always hear idiot radio people go like, oh man, the real show happens while we're in commercials. And for Funkhouser and I, it often does.
You should hear us off the air.
Oh my God. See, I love Funkhouser because he's easy to hang out with and he's not always on. But have you ever... Funkhouser, like, have you ever spent time, and I'm guessing there's no way you've managed to escape this, have you ever spent time around a whole bunch of other radio personalities that don't really know one another?
The best time to do that is at Disneyland when they have Radio Day, and they're all kind of under their own umbrella, and they have to talk to each other, because sometimes there's, like, no listener-type people that walk around. So there's 25 radio people just sitting staring at each other. Yeah, I've spent some time with some people.
Oh, it's just insufferable. Like, I think Funkhouser and I fall into a category that is a little different from most radio people in that we kind of just needed jobs and radio presented itself. It's not like we're your radio folks. Like, I don't think that we have the crippling social retardation that a lot of radio folks do. Like, there's something very telling about a person who can talk alone in a room into a microphone and be speaking to 500,000 people, but be extraordinarily uneasy in a room of 5 people that they know. And it's like they're a weird breed. Would you agree with that, Funkhouser?
Oh,
that yeah. You and I are, yeah. It's exhausting to be around these people. It's like the vast majority of radio people. I have no interest in hanging out with them. Unless for some reason they buck the trend and they're a Funkhouser, where they're actually an interesting person on their own merits. Like, it's just a bunch of... I know what you do. I know all your stories. They're not fun. They're not interesting. You're not anywhere as near as interesting as you seem to think you are. In fact, you're exhausting to be around.
Lately, I've been telling them, as they were telling me stories that I don't care about, that I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. And sometimes they laugh, sometimes they don't. I don't care.
I have this expression that I learned from the guy that mixed my first ever album. This dude, I can't remember his name now. The hell is his name? I talk to him every now and then, too. He's this kind of, like, big deal mixer dude. He's worked with U2 and Pearl Jam. And the drummer in my band was kind of a rock star before this band started, so... You know, the rest of us were homeless street urchins, and him and this guy were getting along great because they'd both sold millions of records on their own. And and Tim Palmer, that's his name. And they were doing that sort of like quippy one-upmanship about like, oh, sure, when I was over at George Harrison's house, we were talking about this. Oh, really? Well, when I was collecting my 3rd platinum disc for the Pearl Jam album, and it was just like, it was insufferable to be around, and they were both being awful to each other, and our drummer was really trying hard, and the other guy was sort of like just putting up with it. And as we left the studio, he turned to him, he turned to our drummer. He went, Man, you know what? I've worked with a lot of people since I started in this business. And they've all pretty much been just like you. And that's what I tend to tell other radio folks. But it's just exhausting being around, especially like you get people that have relationships and they're friends, and that's cool and everything. But radio folks are so insecure. Their egos tend to be so incredibly out of control, and they tend to be so obnoxious about it because they're not okay with themselves. It's sort of like that old expression: the cooler you are with yourself, the cooler you are going to be to the people around you. And that's illustrated very clearly when you meet your average radio personality who's a social retard with crippling social anxiety that acts like a complete ass clown and a tool to compensate for the fact that they think nothing of themselves. That's, sorry if I'm pulling away the magic from the whole situation, but that's what they're like. But being around a whole bunch of radio personalities that don't really know each other,
you would think it's fun because it's like, oh, it's all my favorite radio personalities in one place, but it's not.
No, it's just it's a bunch of insecure douchetards communicating in what can only be described as a series of quippy one-upmanships. Does that make sense? It's like they're all trying to be funny and they're all trying to be amusing. And here's the thing: you're not funny. You're not interesting. You make a living by saying, "And now another Nirvana song," and that's what you do. And it's just it really is kind of exhausting. I don't know where I was going with all this, except for, now it just appears to have been a scorching indictment of everybody I'm going to see when I walk out in the hallway. I hope none of them were listening to this show.
I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care. Well, I've worked with a lot of people, and they've all been exactly like you. But we actually do have some interesting conversations off the air, and one of them is, like, in my Twitter feed, I've got a lot of porn. Lots and lots of porn. For two reasons. One, boobs. Boobs in the news feed, always a happy thing, always adds a little skip to your step, a little bit of brightness to your day. But I follow a lot of porn people on Twitter because we live in this world, which is, look, the company we work for recently changed their name. And we are now officially a media company. We're no longer a radio company.
I heart media!
Yep, and you have to be on top of all forms of media. And you know what's interesting? Radio people could take a big page out of the porn star book when it comes to social media, because we're all useless ass clowns when it comes to this stuff. We don't know how to use Twitter and Facebook for business effectively. We just don't. But porn people really, really do, because porn chicks for the longest time had this thing where they had to go get plowed on camera, making movies for, I don't know, big faceless porn companies. Vivid. Well, what are some other big ones, Funkhouser?
Elegant Angel.
Right.
Brazzers.
Right. So, these big companies, and girls would get paid pennies on the dollar to literally have every orifice violated. And that's fine, and that's the way it worked for a really long time, but now they kind of worked out, hey, it's the digital age. All I need is a webcam and a decent Twitter following, and I don't have to have sex with anyone. I could just fap it on this camera, collect $12 a minute or whatever the hell it is, and stay home. And a lot of them do. But it all hinges around being good at working yourself on Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, stuff like this. So they are the most adept social networking marketers on the face of the planet. And large companies and corporations like the one we work for would be doing well to take a page out of their book. And that is why I follow so many porn stars on Twitter. That plus, the added attraction of boobs. But I was like, hey, look at this one chick. And Funkhouser's like, oh yeah, she's a peach. I know her. I like her. She's really nice. We've worked together in the past. And I was like, my mind was blown because it's just this faceless person whose boobs I follow on Twitter, and he knows them and has worked with them. And now I kind of feel like I should go through my Twitter feed and see how many of the porn chicks that I follow Funkhouser actually has friendly working relationships with. Apparently it's a lot.
Yeah, and I like to call them peaches.
Oh, so this one specific girl wasn't actually a peach?
She was a peach. Yeah.
I want you to notice as well, like what decent human beings we are, because ultimately this is a chick that gets plowed on camera for a living, but we're kind of like respecting her boundaries and her privacy by not bringing up her name, and that's really kind of, I think that's an interesting precedent.
I could ask my phone.
You could. Oh yeah. Anyways. We have accomplished almost nothing today. I think this was my favorite show in a really long time. It was just two guys hanging out. It was good. It was good times. And I think that's what makes the radio that we get to do around here special. I think this is going to be the closest representation to real life that you're going to hear on the radio.
I wish we had more time than just like an hour.
You know, I listen to some of these talk radio people, and some of them have 4-hour shows. I'm like, how can you talk for 4 hours? And now I see how it's done, because, you know, Funkhouser and I could spend an hour shooting the S like this, and then do some serious news stories, and then shoot the S for another hour, and then do the rest of the serious news stories.
Yeah, some of those Spanish guys go like 6 hours.
6 hours of talking?
Yeah, like El Piolín por la mañana is like on at 4 in the morning or something. Yeah,
I don't know, man. And this is not like this is going to sound racially insensitive, but it's really not. Do you speak any Spanish?
Un pequeño.
See, yeah, I speak un pequeño as well, or un poquito, solamente las palabras malas, which means only the bad words. But here's the thing: I can speak Spanish to other people, but when people start speaking Spanish to me, especially if they're from Mexico or if they're from Spain or they're from some place where Spanish is the language of choice, they speak so quickly. It's a language that's spoken at a very rapid pace. So I got to imagine that if you're talking that fast for 6 hours, like your number of words spat out over a 6-hour period, the number of news stories you cover talking at that rate. I'm not trying to sound naive or insensitive, but I got to imagine that he covers an awful lot of ground in 6 hours. That's crazy.
Seems like there's a lot to say.
We'll get into this tomorrow because, quite frankly, we don't have the time today. But this Edgar Allan Poe-esque story that I was talking about, you know, the telltale heart, a murderer is driven to confess because his guilty conscience makes him think he can hear his victim's heart beating. Cell phone era equivalent happened. And I just have to cover this because I said I would at the beginning of the show. But 55-year-old guy in North Carolina accidentally got a text message from Walmart back in June. And it was a wrong number, but this text message he got was about a prescription being ready for a woman. He, however, thought it was someone messing with him. See, he lived in Bullhead City, Arizona back in 1997. One night he met a woman. They went back to his trailer. Unsurprising that was the domicile. She started getting loud and crazy. He asked her to leave. When she wouldn't, he wound up killing her by beating her with a flashlight. Beat her to death with a flashlight. Then he dumped her body in the Colorado River. Never said a single word about what happened. It's been eating him alive ever since, though, because, well, when he got a text about a prescription being ready for a woman, he thought it was someone messing with him who knew he'd murdered her back in 97. It wasn't, but he confessed anyway. Thank you, Walmart, for bringing the flashlight murderer of Arizona to justice. We thank you.